San Salvador, El Salvador. El Salvador's iron-fisted leader on Monday offered to jail Americans so President Donald Trump can outsource the U.S. prison system, an extraordinary step that was hailed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Now, welcome back to the channel. If anybody's been following international news over the last year or two, then you know what El Salvador's president did with all of the suspected criminals and gang members in El Salvador. He built a massive jail. The jail is so large it holds at least a city's worth of people. And if you Google and go online and look at the videos and you see how these people are treated inside that facility, it's like hell on earth. Take a listen to this.
There is virtually no precedent in contemporary times for a democratic country to send its own citizens to foreign jails, and any attempt to do so is sure to be challenged in U.S. courts. But Rubio welcomed an offer to do just that by President Nayib Bukele, whose sweeping crackdowns have won him hero status for many in President Donald Trump's orbit. He has offered to house in his jails dangerous American criminals in custody in our country, including those with U.S. citizenship and legal residency.
Did you hear that? This guy has offered to house in his jails in another country, thousands of miles away. He wants to take custody of American prisoners, Americans with U.S. citizenship and legal residency. I don't know how anyone can even think of something like that, but it's once again for those that has been lost in the mix. Go back to the UN, the One World Order plan. They're trying to really put it in effect by putting it in effect to where they can send prisoners to any country. They're going to start out with this San Salvador issue. Watch what I tell you. It's always an overlay for the underlay.
Rubio told reporters in San Salvador. No country's ever made an offer of friendship such as this, Rubio said. We are profoundly grateful. I spoke to President Trump about this earlier today, he said. Bukele said that El Salvador would ask for payment and was ready to incarcerate Americans in a prison he opened a year ago that is Latin America's largest.
That's what I was telling you about earlier. He opens a prison that's so big, he got so much room that he's offering to take other people's prisoners for payment.
We have offered the United States of America the opportunity to outsource part of its prison system, Bukele wrote on X after Rubio's statement. The fee would be relatively low for the U.S., but significant for us, making our entire prison system sustainable. Donald Trump's mass deportation agenda. Rubio said that Bukele was also willing to take back Salvadoran citizens and nationals of other countries. Rubio appeared to suggest the focus in El Salvador would be on jailing members of Latin American gangs, such as El Salvador's MS-13 and Venezuela's Tren de Aragua. Any unlawful immigrant and illegal immigrant in the United States who is a dangerous criminal, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, whatever it may be, he has offered his jails, Rubio said. Since his return to the White House last month, Trump has put a top priority on speeding up the deportation of millions of people in the U.S. without documentation. Trump has sought to crack down on the right to birthright citizenship, which is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. Trump has also unveiled plans to detain 30,000 migrants at the U.S. base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, a prison which previous Democratic presidents said they hope to close. The Trump administration is especially eager to deport Venezuelans. Since taking office last month, Trump has stripped roughly 600,000 Venezuelans of protection from deportation ordered by his predecessor, Joe Biden, citing the economic and security crisis in the South American country run by nemesis Nicolas Maduro. Latin America's biggest jail. Bukele's crackdown has included mass roundups of suspects without warrants and the opening of the maximum security prison where he has offered to jail Americans. The prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, or Secrect, is surrounded by huge concrete walls on the edge of a jungle 45 miles southeast of San Salvador. It is designed to house 40,000 people, with around 15,000 estimated to be there now. People incarcerated at Secrect leave their cells only when they have court hearings by video link from a room in the prison, or to exercise for 30 minutes per day in a large hallway. Bukele's actions have faced criticism from human rights groups, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. Rubio's motorcade traveled an hour through the forests to Bukele's lakeside vacation home on Lake Copec, with the 43-year-old president sporting sunglasses and sneakers as he showed the top U.S. diplomat the sweeping view. As people on a boat below cheered him, Bukele waved down to them and told Rubio with a grin, switching to English for a moment, 90% approval rating. Bukele's other fans include the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., and the right-wing populist journalist Tucker Carlson, who both attended his second inauguration last year. The Trump administration has so far not touched the protected status from deportation of some 232,000 Salvadorans in the U.S., which was also extended by Biden. Sans
What are your thoughts on that? This is crazy. You got this guy right here and this American guy right here conspiring to lock up Americans overseas. I don't understand how that's following the Constitution. But these guys come up with some crazy stuff. It's making me think, like I always say, that we're living in an alternative universe, another dimension somehow. I think we switched dimensions when CERN turned the halogen collider on. But let's take a look at this video before we close out.
To jail, quote, dangerous criminals. El Salvador on Monday offered to jail, quote, dangerous criminals deported by the United States, no matter their nationality. That's according to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio after lengthy talks with the Central American country's leader, Nayib Bukele, who is seen by the Trump administration as a key ally in its expanding immigration crackdown.
He has agreed to accept for deportation any illegal alien in the United States who is a criminal from any nationality, be they MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, and house them in his jails.
Rubio said Bukele also offered to house dangerous criminals who are U.S. citizens or legal residents. It was unclear whether the U.S. would take up that offer, but U.S. citizens cannot legally be deported from the United States. Rubio said more details of the deal would be forthcoming. The U.S. State Department's website notes that prison conditions in El Salvador
Wow. Just outrageous. Just outrageous. Let's continue.
are, quote, harsh and dangerous, with overcrowding constituting a, quote, serious threat to prisoners' health and lives. On his first overseas tour as the U.S.'s top diplomat, Rubio is seeking support from countries in the region for Trump's attempts to deport large numbers of migrants. He's trying to secure so-called third country agreements like the one he said was in the works with El Salvador, with other countries in the region. In such arrangements, nations accept citizens of other countries that will not accept deportees. Cuba and Venezuela, for instance, have frosty relations with the U.S. and have in the past limited the number of deportees they will accept. Since taking office several weeks ago, President Donald Trump has stepped up the number of migrants the U.S. deports to Latin America. The U.S. on Tuesday sent the first military aircraft carrying a handful of detained migrants to the naval base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which Trump has promised to expand to hold up to 30,000 migrants.
Wow. Very interesting, outrageous, strange, thought-provoking. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the America's government has the right to do this? Do you think it's right for the Americans to send American government to send Americans overseas to prison? You know, I'm not worried about all of these illegals and things of that nature, but I'm talking about blood-born bred Americans. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, and we're going to catch y'all on the next one.